Good morning, church.
Good morning.
Thank y'all for being here this beautiful Sunday morning. How many of you came here today thinking you would find investment advice from the scripture? I'm going to bring along a tale of my investment journey and demonstrate how I had been each of the servants that were identified in the scripture. Okay. When I started early in the state, I was in corrections and I had a 12-hour shift and I worked overnight, and inmates went to bed about 10:45. I started my shift 5:45. By 10:45, everybody was asleep. So that left us with time from 10:45 to about 4:45 a.m. There was almost dead silence. And they had a number of things that people did during that time. We did patrol the halls to make sure that if the inmates had any violations or anything like that, we were checking on them, right? But we had a lot of downtime. So people did an assortment of things with their downtime. Some people liked gossip. Some people, talked about things was going on secular. I had the privilege of sitting down and I started reading. One of the things I started reading was Charles Gibbons. He had a book called More Wealth Without Risk. And then he had also this book, Financial Self-Defense. So the More Wealth Without Risk, I learned I was 21 years old and I had a little small income. I think I made maybe $1,300 a month. Charles Gibbons told me, even though I made next to nothing, I could invest some and grow my wealth. So I believed him. I didn't come from this family that had like financial advisors. They weren't financially smart. So I said, this is a way I could take, and it's better experience, better knowledge than what I had at home. So I took the advice and I started investing, let's say, $100 a month, and I put it in this mutual fund that Charles Gibbons had recommended. Okay? So I'm in my 20s, and I'm lucky because a lot of people don't start investing. Now keep in mind the 3 servants who were given talents. Okay? 2 of them went and invested, 1 buried it. Keep in mind, Charles Gibbons' first book was More Wealth Without Risk. The 3rd servant took no risks. The first 2 did, and they grew their money. Okay? In addition to reading the secular book, I was involved in church, and I got into a number. I was taking in messages from all over. I was listening to Creflo Dollar. I was listening to, they had this church that had a prosperity preacher in Darrow, Louisiana. He wrote a book called Money Cometh. And the text on the front was printed in gold. So the ink was in gold, and it was intended, when you read the book, it was based on scripture. When you read the book, the ink would flake off on your hands, and then you had gold on your hands. Okay, that's the sort of prosperity minister that I was listening to at that time, incorporating in with my investment strategy. So I'm thinking, have the scripture behind me, plus I'm investing the way this Charles Gibbons did, and I put my investments on the set it and forget it. So believe it or not, from about 1997 to about 2006, I kept the path this man had recommended for mutual funds, and they grew some, but not like at the rate, because he actually says in the book what rate they should grow at. He says, if you do this, you can expect this return. So in the scripture, we're told that the 1 servant had 5, and he comes back with 10 talents. And here, this man is saying, if you put money into these specific mutual funds, these are returns you could expect. So I'm thinking I'm growing my money, and I'm listening. I got set it and forget it. 2006 comes along, and I pick up James Kramer. So you got to keep in mind how that first servant, he grew his money, he doubled it. But James Kramer is not a set it and forget it kind of guy. He likes to look at the stock market every single day. He has a very high intensity show on a conservative network, and he's like, this is what's happening in the market today, and these are the stocks you need to get today. He's all about the high risk and doubling your money. You could absolutely do it. So I bought into this, right? And so I still had some of this going on, right? So I'm a mutual funds, and now I'm going to get in a stock game. 2006, I get in a stock game. Who remembers what happened in 2008? Right.
Housing market.
Some people remember what happened in 2008? Okay. 2008, I'm holding 3 particular stocks that I would end up having to hold 4 more years just to break even. Right? So the first few days, like, my nerves were wrecked because, for those that don't know, in 2008, stocks tanked. They hit the floor. Stock that I bought for $30 would be suddenly worth $16. Some people panicked and they sold their stock. That means they lost a lot of money. I have an aunt that actually panicked, and she did lose a lot of money. My uncle encouraged me, look, hold on. Just like a roller coaster, just hold on. I didn't realize I'd have to hold on 4 more years just to break even. Some people rode it out and made sure they made some money. I wasn't one of those people. As soon as I broke even, I went and sold my stock, okay? And so then I decided, let me do some research, because just a few years ago, I completely got out of the stock game, okay? Got out of the stock game. I'm no longer in the business of trying to do a whole bunch of trades to make a whole bunch of money. So this guy just, you can burn this book. I kept it just to kind of evidence what the heck was going on with me at that time. So just a few years later, I decide, like, was it 2023? So let's say 2019. I decided I need to reassess what the heck is going on, okay? I went back to the basics. I went and pulled up somebody who's really great for helping you get out of debt, somebody who's really great for helping you set a budget. His investment advice isn't the greatest. He does have, like, some people he endorses, and so that made me go back and look at this guy. Because if they're endorsing people, you got to look at what's going on. Well, I looked up this guy. This guy had charges on him. This guy went to prison. The mutual funds that he was recommending were high-low mutual funds. That means you were spending a lot of money. That means from 1997 to 2019, I was not getting the returns that I really should get, and I was paying more to invest than what I should. And this guy now is, like, in prison. And I was like, I got to rethink things, right? So all these secular ways that I had tried to grow my talents, they weren't working. I had to reassess what I was doing, right? And I wasn't on a path. You can't throw any of these books away. There's good information in each one, but none are 100% foolproof, and none are 100% right. You can't rely completely on any one book. Now, who here was surprised to hear, maybe we might have to take some risks, and perhaps that God is expecting some return on what He gives us? Who was surprised to hear that? Because a lot of times we hear people preach the love of money is the root of all evil. Some people get it mixed up, and they say money is the root of all evil. But they're not looking at how, when God gives us something, that God is expecting us to grow that something. It's great to be humble, it's great to save, but we heard, like, the gnashing of teeth. Matthew always returns back to the gnashing of teeth. For the servant who did not grow his talents. Okay? So we're going to look at the first section of this scripture. We have a master given talents. We talked a few weeks ago about talents. We had the servant. If you remember, the master forgave one servant talents. And the amount was like 10 years worth of wages. And that servant who the master forgave would not forgive the debt that another slave owed him. And that's when we hear Matthew talking about the gnashing of teeth and all the retribution that comes when we don't forgive, right? So we learned then that the master gave these talents 10 years worth of wages, and he forgave it. But then the other slave wouldn't forgive, the one who was forgiven the debt would not forgive another slave. So here we are again with the talents, but in this case, the master is given talents, but the talents that he gives, and this is money, back then talents were money, they were given based on the ability that each person had, and they gave significant amounts. So today we are still given, and we've got to look at what we're doing with them. If we are given some spiritual gift, are we trying to multiply our spiritual gift? If we're giving money in our accounts, are we trying to multiply the money in our accounts? Are we being fruitful with what's being given to us? So the first two multiply the talents that were given to them. And the third buries it in fear. Buries it in fear. So if you go back to my scenario, when I had run across this more wealth without risk, I felt like I was working toward my future by putting some money in mutual funds. But in some ways, I was burying my money. Because I kind of put my head in the sand. I didn't know this guy had charges on him. I didn't know he was going to go to jail. I didn't stay up to date with what was going on. I just did the set it and forget it. I followed the instructions in the book, and I trusted that that would work. I had incorporated scripture. I was following these prosperity preachers. I thought I was set. I thought I had it all. However, I was not staying relevant, and I wasn't actively working to develop my spiritual gifts. I wasn't actively working to develop the funds that I had invested. And we learned in the scripture, the master is going to reward and condemn based on how we grow the spiritual gifts we were given and based on how we're multiplying what was given to us. So, if I go work and I just let my money sit idly in my checking account and I'm not giving it back and I'm not making it grow, this scripture is telling me that's not what God intends. God actually intends, and you hear some prosperity preachers go on this tangent, when Christians have money, they need to buy land, and the reason they need to buy land is because somehow we're overcoming Satan by owning houses. I've heard all kinds of scripture. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying when you earn money, you've got to look at what's happening with it. If I could have invested $100 when I only made $1,200 a month, then a lot of people can invest, right? But what are we doing with it? Do we let it sit idly? Or are we actively working to grow our spiritual talents, our spiritual gifts? Are we being stewards? Are we giving back to the church? In the scripture, we also learn that God is condemning laziness. Now, those of you who know me know the majority of the time that you've known me, I've had more than one job. There was a time that I worked with the Sexual Trauma Awareness and Response. I used to go out on calls at night for sexual survivors of trauma, and I went to the hospitals at night. And now I'm at the library in the evenings. I believe that's giving back. I believe it helps the community. And I believe that's like God working through me. I have to leave room in my life because I do have that downtime, and I try to see how I can help others. Your talent might be different. Your gift might be different. Among the rewards, we have God rewards faithfulness. That's through your acts. That doesn't have to be putting money in the offering plate. Okay? God also rewards those acts. So don't waste your gifts. If you're given a gift, you take that gift and you plant it. And you see how you can help others. Being a Christian isn't just come and sit here on Sunday morning. It's what we do when we go out into the world. Are we using the talents that we're given to go have influence, to go help others? What are we doing with the talents? Some of us might think, I don't have that gift to go help in the community. In the past, there was a guy, he was great at arranging flowers. We'd come in on Sunday mornings and we'd have gorgeous flower arrangements. You can have a variety of gifts, talents to bring back and help the church and help the community. I think I've clearly pointed out we do need to take risks for God's glory. Okay. In my case, with my financial situation, it was very unlikely, especially how I came up, where I come up, that I would have been successful with money, that I would have been successful, period. To say that I had any investments at all in any mutual funds contradicts everything about my upbringing, because it was very unlikely. I'm probably the only one in my family who has some investments or mutual funds. But I was lucky to learn, even by this crooked man, that even if you have next to nothing, you have enough to invest. That was news to me, and it helped me in the long run. So even though he turned out to be somebody who was like a criminal and ended up in prison, I can't discount all of the information. God honors faithfulness. So if you take your gift and you stick to it, you develop it, that right there is honoring God. Let's say you're great at writing and you write something and share it. You might share it with a newspaper, an opinion piece that helps the community. That's working. That's God working through you. So, if you'll pause that, it's not time yet for that. So I want you to take and assess. This isn't only about money, but it is partially about money. I don't want you to discount how much you have in your checking account. Whatever it is, it's not too small to start investing in yourself. Right now, the financial situation, everybody likes to complain about the economy. I could tell you with zero knowledge. You don't have to be super smart or intellect or having studied economy to know. If you go look up high yield savings account, whatever you have in your account, and you put in a high yield savings account, you could earn 5% right now without being a genius on economy. Okay. And think of yourself. Are you going to be that first servant? Or are you going to be the second servant? Or are you going to be the third servant? Are you going to be the one who buries your talents, buries your skills, buries your money in fear? Or are you going to try to work and strive toward growing your talents, your gifts, and working for God? And I don't want you to think, let's say if you take advantage of a high yield savings account, that's something having to do with the love of money, and it's the thing that God hates. Because this scripture alone should reinforce the fact that God actually wants to see you grow and be successful money-wise. My reflection song today, I'm going to switch gears, because I want you to think about your spirituality, how you can improve your money situation, how you can give back to the church, and how you can give back to community. Today's reflection song, I want us to take a moment and think about tomorrow is the Transgender Day of Remembrance. The Day of Remembrance is so that we recall all the challenges that our brothers and sisters have faced throughout time. And we are part of the community, and we support the transgender community. Because gays, lesbians, and bisexuals have made advancements in our community and got some rights. Our struggle is not yet over. So just take a moment to reflect for the Transgender Day of Remembrance, and just be still for a moment.